Good afternoon, everyone. So what I want to do over the next 30 minutes is to try to share with you a perspective of how the consumer is changing. And that's particularly looked at through the lens of the retail industry. But I hope you will appreciate that some of these changes you're probably already beginning to see with your client base, and I certainly think you'll see more of them over the next 5 to 10 years. So this chart on the top left-hand side shows that 46% of people who go into stores have actually done some online research first. Conversely, 69% of people in stores have then gone out of the store and have bought something online. So these two principal channels to market are becoming blurred together. On the right-hand side, in the United States, more than half of all online product searches start with Amazon. That's actually twice the number that start with Google. No wonder that Amazon is the most feared name in most retail boardrooms. And bottom left, I think, is a trend which we're seeing in all consumer industries, which is consumers trusting the views and reviews of other consumers more than established sources. And even John Lewis, the nation's favorite retailer, is seeing dramatic changes. So over just 4 years, the smartphone has become the principal way in which people have related to John Lewis online. They're no longer using desktops or iPads to the same degree. And on the right-hand side, more than half of all online orders at John Lewis are picked up on click and collect. So this is a framework that I want to use with you, developed by Planet Retail, of 9 principal dimensions of change of the consumer. And I'm going to start at the bottom of this chart, which is about consumer empowerment. And the consumer empowerment starts with the smartphone. So your smartphone is the most knowledgeable, intelligent, helpful shopping companion that you have ever had. And what are people using the smartphone for? Well, on the left-hand side, they're comparing prices while they're in stores. They're looking for product information. They're looking for online reviews. But crucially, it would be very easy to conclude that this is all about a very young smartphone-wielding generation. And of course, it's true that 77% of millennials shop in that way. But it is equally true that even people as old as me, and I think I'd count myself as a baby boomer, 50% of us shop in that way too. So we're beginning to see these changes spreading up through the generations. And technology can be remarkably powerful. This is one of my very favorite websites. It's called Camel. And what this does is for any item that you might buy on Amazon, it tracks the price movements on Amazon over time. So you can draw yourself a graph of those price movements and decide whether the time is right for you to buy. Even better, you say what your target price is, and Camel will send you an alert when Amazon has got the price down to that. And this is a classic Bowie back catalogue album. The prices are shown in the weeks up to and immediately after his death. What I find fascinating about this is I used to run HMV, and when I ran HMV, if there was an untimely death of an artist, we used to put all the prices up. What the Amazon algorithm seems to do is to take the price down to a new low. You've probably, many of you here, I'm sure, have used price comparison websites to change your motor insurance company, your home insurance, maybe your energy suppliers. But some websites are now going beyond that. So this website, Flipper, if you give it permission, will be constantly monitoring the cost of your energy supply and will automatically switch you to a cheaper source when it becomes rationally sensible for you to do that. It's no surprise, therefore, that in the face of all these tools that consumers have to buy things more cheaply, that retailers are seeing their margins severely squeezed. So what retailers are trying to do to combat that is to gradually move away from selling goods to selling services, because it's harder for consumers to compare prices on services. Take pets at home as an example. Top right, there actually is hardly any money to be made selling dog food or cat food, because we can all compare prices across a number of outlets that are keen for our business. Much harder, I think, for those of us as pet owners to reliably compare prices for veterinary services or pet grooming. Today's consumer is looking for instant gratification. They have absolutely no patience. And here's 3 examples of the arms race that retailers are going through to meet that need. So at Next, you could order up to midnight and the product will be with you the next day. On the right-hand side, if you order from Argos, it will be with you the same day, and you can specify a 3-hour delivery window. And if you're just thinking now about what you're going to wear to that party you're going to this evening, you could order on your mobile phone from ASOS, and it will be with you between 6 and 10 this evening. We're seeing that spread to things like price promotions. So the left-hand side is Myer, which is an Australian retailer who has specialized in running time-limited promotions. Now, I work for the Competition and Markets Authority, and we actually worry about consumers being unduly pressurized to make decisions because of time-limited promotions. But we're certainly seeing more of those things. On the right-hand side is a graph that shows that those clothing retailers who are able to design and manufacture and get into the stores products in the shortest possible timescale are seeing much better sales growth than those with traditional supply chains like Marks and Spencer's and Next. And people who use social media, this is Instagram. Instagram now have technology that when you're on a retailer's website, there are tags on the products that you can simply click on the tag and buy direct without leaving the Instagram site. So this is some Marks and Spencer's images. Now, as customers, we're all looking for a seamless, frictionless experience. We don't want hassle when we're moving away from our mobile phone to buying things on store. Of course, because of legacy IT systems, the reality is often quite a far way divorced from that. And I think this is quite a clever way of thinking about how shopping works. So the orange boxes on the left-hand side is traditionally how we have all shopped in stores. We've gone down that path. Equally, when we first started to buy things through e-commerce, we've gone down the line of black boxes. Today's consumer, however, doesn't stay on one of those channels. They are moving backwards and forwards multiple times between online sources and stores. And I think if you think of your own behavior as consumers, many of you are doing this. And it's what my friends at Dixon's Carphone describe as the new normal. Those of us who have done fashion retailing know that the moment of truth in fashion retailing is the fitting room. If you can get her in the fitting room, she is much more likely to buy it. But the moment she walks out of the fitting room, the longer it takes to complete the transaction, the more likely she is to change her mind. So Oasis have perfected the technology of intercepting the customer the moment they leave the fitting room and checking them out there and then. And at Burberry, those comfortable sofas, bottom right, are where you pay for your purchases. And goodness me, with their prices, you need to be sitting down. Top left is the thing that gives us all most hassle when we're shopping, is the supermarket checkout queue. And bless him, the guy at the back of the queue looks as if he has a reason to try and get through pretty quickly. But actually, Sainsbury's are now one of many retailers who are now perfecting an app on your phone where you simply scan your own purchases as you go through, and your account is automatically deducted as you leave the store. That removes a lot of the friction for you as a customer. It's quicker and it's more convenient, but of course, it saves Sainsbury's a bucket of money. The archetypal version of this is the Amazon Go store in Seattle, which was on trial for a long time simply with employees before they opened it to the outside world. And what happens here is, center at the bottom, you use your mobile phone to check in, a bit like when you're going through passport security at the airport. But once you're in the store, the phone is back in your handbag and pocket, and you never need it again. So there are multiple sensing technologies that automatically detect when you remove something from the shelf and when you walk out of the store with it, and your account is automatically charged. And I think we will see much more of that automated technology in retailing. And what we also want to be able to do is to move a transaction partway through across from one device to another. So those of you who have used voice search for shopping, whether that's Amazon Alexa or in this case Google Home, one of the frustrations is it's all very well for Google Home to take you through 22 options on eBay, but do you really want to listen to 22 options? What eBay now do is to give you the option to switch that transaction at that point to a desktop or to a mobile phone. Today's consumer is expecting much more convenience and flexibility. So in the UK in particular, we want to be able to buy online, but we want to be able to return and store. The UK is the world leader on click and collect. We have got busy lifestyles. We want to be able to pick up our purchase because we may not be at home. And we want to check whether the product is available in the store before we bother to leave our home. One, of course, the nightmares that we all suffer is waiting in for the delivery driver who never shows up, or if you're not there, throws the package over your fence. These are some of the solutions that are being brought to the market to cope with that. So top left is a technology developed by Volvo, which grants the retailer a one-time key to open the boot of your car. So the store operative will put your purchases in the boot of your car. Doesn't say what she's taking out at the same time, of course. Top right is even scarier. This is the Swedish grocer ICA, who will deliver to your home, and you will grant them a one-time key to open the door, and they'll go in and put your groceries away. Bottom right is an automated so-called ground drone. These things are trundling around the streets of Greenwich at 3 miles an hour, and they've got a 4-mile radius from the store. And my favorite one, bottom left, is the Mercedes Vision van. So this is a driverless vehicle that drives into a neighborhood, and then the drones inside the vehicle select your package, fly out of the cavity in the roof, and leave it on your doorstep. Now, another way, though, that consumers are increasingly shopping, and this is very prevalent in young, affluent, urban consumers, is through the subscriptions market, where you make a forward commitment to buy something regularly on a monthly basis. It's a bit like the old book clubs, if you can imagine that. And there are two principal types of subscription market. One is for regular household items and groceries where you just want the friction taken out of the process of buying them. So Amazon Subscribe and Save is a very good example of that. But the larger part of the market are those people who want the pleasant surprise of opening a box once a month where a stylish, knowledgeable person has curated a box of fashion or a box of beauty products which are tailored for your benefit. So the image I've got here is Birchbox, which is the market leader for beauty subscription products in the US. This is now a huge market. Even in the UK, the subscription market is £2 billion. Now, I was talking earlier about the fact that a lot of searches start by typing into Amazon. But actually, are words the best way to search? And ASOS will now do a lot of searches by using photographic imagery. So you might want to take a photograph of David's tie and think, could you buy that on ASOS? And it will come up with an automatic match. You may want to use a celebrity photograph. And ASOS's artificial intelligence technology will search their database of products and come up with the best match. One of the things that's been a phenomenal market over the last 2 years is the Amazon Alexa voice system. 33 million of these devices have been sold in the US. They're in more than 10% of UK homes. And on the top left is a chart showing what people actually do with these devices. So most people are asking Alexa to play music, or you're using pretty simple queries. But in fact, 42% of customers have used Alexa to add something to the shopping basket. And that is clearly Amazon's motivation. Now, Amazon, but also its competitors like Apple Siri, Microsoft Cortana, Google Home, are trying to now infiltrate these voice recognition systems into other environments. So the car will be the next big battleground. So that when you're driving along, when you suddenly realize that you've forgotten to order mayonnaise, you ask Alexa to order the mayonnaise for you. And if you thought that was all a bit scary, Facebook are now searching on automatically using your thought patterns to do online searches. I suspect this technology is a little way away from realization, but it's clearly possible. Something that bothers us quite a lot as a competition authority is this. This is an intelligent fridge marketed by Samsung. And they've linked up with Woolworths, the grocery chain in Australia, where it detects everything you're putting into the fridge and taking out of the fridge. So very helpfully, it monitors the sell-by dates of all the contents. But of course, what it will do, it will automatically reorder things for you. So of course, one of the downsides of this is that if you once decided to buy a Muller yogurt, the wretched thing is going to constantly order Muller yogurts for you, unless you tell it to do something else. And indeed, as a veteran marketeer, all those sort of historical devices I've used to dupe consumers, like clever advertising, packaging, color, fragrance, smell, the algorithm won't give a toss about any of that. It will just simply make the most rational decision on your behalf. As a competition authority, we worry about the fact that every manufacturer will actually use the same best practice algorithm, so before you know it, you've got inadvertent collusion in the market. I'm just going to let you read this cartoon because I think this actually, whilst being an amusing cartoon, also summarizes what the downside of these systems is. You know, if you're not careful, Amazon will be imposing its choice on what you buy over your choice. Now, when I grew up in rural Dorset, this is how my mum shopped for grocery. The grocery store came to us because it was in the days when very few people had cars. This is now coming back again. So Moby Mart is a Swedish company who have installed these things throughout Shanghai. So at any time of the day and night, if you're feeling you want to shop, you can use the app on your phone to summon the store, and it comes to you. It's a driverless, unmanned vehicle where when it gets into proximity of your phone, the doors open, you select what you want, and as you walk out, you are automatically charged. If you can't be bothered to use your mobile phone, payment technologies are now going beyond that. This device in Korea uses the vein patterns in your hand to uniquely identify you. And perhaps one of the scariest things of all is Amazon are now working on trying to get things to you before you knew you wanted it. The so-called anticipatory shipping and manufacturing. So they are using their data science to anticipate that you might want to order something, to get it to a warehouse within a 20-mile radius of you just in case. Or even more, this van is actually a mobile factory. There is a 3D printer in the van, and it will come to your home and manufacture the product for you. Okay, so perhaps against all of this, today's consumer is also beginning to question the virtues of outright ownership. So one of the things that we've all noticed over many years is that in Germany, people are much less likely to own their homes. Even though Germany is a demonstrably affluent, seemingly similar economy to our own, it is much more the culture that people think the rational thing to do is to rent a home rather than buy one. Of course, sadly, we've now got a generation coming through in this country where they've probably got no choice but to rent rather than buy, so-called generation rent. But we're seeing that behavior extend across into other patterns of purchasing. So many people who live in urban settings are thinking, why buy a car? Why don't I just use a car on a sort of per mile or per hour basis when I need one? Why bother to own much of a wardrobe? Why not rent it when I need it? And if you thought that this behavior was only confined to young people, Ann Taylor is an upscale women's wear brand in the US, where the target market is women in their 40s and 50s, and they offer effectively a subscription service where you can at any one time rent out 3 of their garments, and the $95 a month price includes the right to send them back, they're dry cleaned, etc. If there's anything you really like and you want to keep it, you can buy it at a discounted price. But it's effectively, I used to work in bookselling. I mean, this is effectively moving clothing retailing towards being a library rather than a shop. And Patagonia, which is a US outdoors retailer, who've always had a great environmental conscience, are now actively persuading their customers, instead of buying a new jacket, to bring the old one back and having it repaired. And I think a lot of academics are now beginning to say, maybe we've reached peak stuff. Maybe we've all got far too much stuff in our houses, our garages, our lofts. And actually renting things and not owning things and repairing things is a better way forward. We're also seeing, I think, new business models cropping up in retailing. So Dixon's Carphone have realized that buying a television, there is no money on it. You will have compared it online. You will go to the cheapest possible source. So they are trying to move the model towards effectively buying a television as an ongoing subscription. So you get a new state-of-the-art TV. They will come and install it and connect it, because we all know that's getting more difficult. They'll provide a suite of content services for you to use and insure it, and they will upgrade and replace it for you so that you've always got the best up-to-date technology in time for the World Cup. And I think that this is really beginning to copy across the business model they saw when they bought Carphone Warehouse, because this is quite similar to how we buy mobile phones. Consumers are also expecting things to be personalized to them, so the days of mass marketing are potentially numbered. And you can be recognized, as in the image in the top left, by your mobile phone. But on the right-hand side is, I think, one of the best retailers in this space, Shop Direct, who trade as very.co.uk, who will have built up a data profile of all the purchases you've made in the past, all the browsing you've done in the past. They know where you are. They know what the weather is where you are. They know the stage of your life you're at. And you will get delivered one of 1.2 million different versions of the homepage, according to how that data sorts it out. Tesco have struck a tie-up with a small company called If This Then That. And what If This Then That does is it's an app that you put on your mobile phone that if you give it permission, it scrapes the data from all the other apps on your mobile phone and will use that to give what are alleged to be useful and timely suggestions as to what you might buy through Tesco. This has been a fantastic business in the US. This is a business called Stitch Fix, and Stitch Fix is another subscription box business, but they gather the data of what you like and what you keep and what you send back and why you're doing that. And they're building millions and millions of data points. And this will be shocking in the world of fashion, they're then using that to guide and inspire the decisions of the stylist. So I used to work in fashion, and designers hate to think that anyone can tell them what to do. Well, that garment on the bottom right was effectively designed by the data. Customers are expecting in all of this that actually going to the retail store will offer a much higher quality experience. So top left is the North Face in Korea, where if you put on the virtual reality headset, it simulates what it's like to be wearing that jacket in the North Pole. Rather more usefully, I think, are the home improvement retailers Lowe's and IKEA, who will, through virtual reality, will show you what that finished home improvement product will look like. And there's some really good beneficial effects of this. So, for example, with the IKEA one, if you've got very young children, you can shrink yourself to the size of a toddler to assess the safety risks of that particular kitchen. You don't even need to leave your own home. On the left-hand side is a musical instrument retailer in this country called Gear for Music, where all their sales associates are equipped with internet-enabled glasses, where you can speak to them and you can see what they're seeing, and they will talk you through the range of guitars. On the right-hand side is an interactive mirror in the hotel rooms of the Sanderson Hotel in London, where you can talk to a personal stylist in the Westfield Shopping Centre. You can try clothes on in a virtual way, which she puts on her side of the mirror, and they show you what it looks like on you, and they'll deliver it within 90 minutes to your hotel room. And away from technology, I think all retailers are learning that we've just got to ramp up the extent of experience in stores. So one of my favorite retailers on the top left is Italy, which is a food emporium. In the center is Lululemon Athletica, who really create a sense of community around yoga. And this is the most bizarre example of all. On the right, that is a real climbing wall with a real climber on it in a retail store in Oregon. And can you just imagine trying to get a British health and safety inspector to sign that off? John Lewis are doing this at their new store in Westfield White City, where you can talk to either a home stylist or a fashion stylist. They demonstrate smart home technology. There's a concierge desk where you can see all the services. Retailers, though, are also, rightly in my view, being held accountable for the impact that they have on society. And about the scariest thing I've ever seen as a retail marketeer is this business called Everlane, which is a US clothing retailer. Top right is complete transparency about their factories and the conditions in the factories. They even have live webcams where you can see the conditions in which the workers are working. I don't have a problem with that. The thing that I find scary is down at the bottom here, and it's hard for you to see at the back, but it actually tells you how much each garment is made to cost, cost to manufacture. They show you the costings in detail, and they show you how much profit they're making. And there are some commentators who believe that all retailers will have to become much more transparent in this way. It perhaps goes even further that on the left is milk in Carrefour in France, and here you decide what you pay for the milk. Now, admittedly, there is a threshold price of 99 cents, but anything you pay over the 99 cents goes for the benefit of the Normandy farmers, which will stop them parking their tractors on the way back to the Channel ports. And on the right-hand side, this is a cafe in Los Angeles that tries to promote a sense of community by saying, effectively, the coffee's free, but you pay what you think you can afford to pay. And I think in conclusion, all retailers have a huge number of responsibilities. We do have a big impact on society, both here and in emerging markets where products are made. So we have to think about the quality, the conditions in those markets. We have to think about the impact on the environment. We have to think about what is our responsibility to try to help consumers to make intelligent lifestyle choices? What is our role in alcohol abuse, food problems of one type or another, and indeed, as retailers, we should be paying taxes. I said earlier that in all retail boardrooms, Amazon was the 800-pound gorilla, and I thought I'd bring together just 8 of the principal strategies that retailers are using to try to combat Amazon. So, top left, Amazon actually have a huge clothing business, but their clothing business is about basics. They wouldn't pretend that it's about style. And I think that's making competitors like ASOS move closer towards style. I did think about trying to rival David by ordering that suit to wear on stage today, but thought better of it. You can exploit your sense of heritage like Co-op. You can exploit the fact that things are made locally. Local provenance is a huge issue, particularly in food retailing. But actually, this example is River Island. You can talk about your ethical standards. Morrison's has tried to distinguish itself because it does have its own farms, it has its own vertical integral supply chain. And across the bottom, from the left-hand side, having a sense of humanity, trying to put something back into your local community. We don't see Amazon doing that. my old company, HMV, trying to bring the music to life. That rather strange-looking man, I think, has recorded and sold quite a lot of albums, but he went into one of their stores and actually served on the counter. We've talked about pets at home. And perhaps most salient of all to you is bottom right. I used to work for Boots, and I'm a great believer that healthcare professionals, and I use the word professionals deliberately, like pharmacists, but clearly you fit into this camp as well, have a unique point of difference in terms of professional standards, knowledge, expertise, but the delivery and the interpersonal skills to deliver that with empathy on a face-to-face basis. That is something that I think Amazon would always find extraordinarily hard to do. So in conclusion, the 4 points to take away are, if you're not already seeing it, I think your customers of tomorrow will be much more knowledgeable and demanding. They'll be expecting improved value. They'll be expecting you to become more transparent, to personalize things, and they'll be wanting you to deal with them quickly. Because what they see in other sectors will create their expectations of you. There'll be a continuing move, I think, away from owning things outright to rental models and for goods and services being bundled together. Consumers, though, will want to take a more rounded view of their quality of life. And I think no one more than you, with your products, has a major part to play in contributing to their quality of life. And as I've just said, those remote online suppliers are going to find it hard to compete with truly informed, friendly, local service. And as I close, and before we throw it open to questions, a lot of this has inevitably been about the use of technology. Remember that technology doesn't always work out well. Sometimes it's a solution looking for a problem, as this particular northern supermarket found in trying to install a robot to deal with the customers. Thank you very much.